Hi, Misha here, and I hope everyone is having or will have a good weekend. And we are working on a number of videos. In fact, Jero is here right now, and we've got kind of an interesting one planned. Even going to talk about a bit of a controversial subject in some ways. Also have a few CNR type videos working up and polishing off. New shotgun video. And a couple of new kits that hopefully will soon be completed. Next weekend is Memorial Day, 3-day weekend, hoping the weather plays ball and we can get some range time in. That'd be nice because March and April and the first part of May were basically rain, and for a change of pace, hail. But trying to think of what to talk about this weekend. Kind of going back to a basic topic, AR versus AK. But another popular topic, PCCs, pistol caliber carbines. So let's combine the two. Let's compare and contrast 9mm AR15s and 9mm AK types. And these are probably not the best at all, but these are mine and ones I've shot quite a bit. Here we have my late 80s or perhaps very early 90s Colt 6450. And somewhat newer gun, we have the Kalashnikov concern KR9. You've seen me use many times. This is as close as we're going to get to the Russian Vityaz SN, which is their 9mm standard submachine gun derived from the AK105 and kind of an evolution of the PP19 Bizon. So, how are they better or worse? And how are they similar? I don't know. What do I think? What do you think? This is just an informal, hanging out video talking about two guns I really enjoy shooting. So, shooting clips inbound throughout the video. You have been warned. Hey, you know I can't adjust the sound thing. So, let's dive in. KR9. Colt 9mm. Not bad for a factory trigger. So some common things between the two. Both fire 9x19, aka 9mm Parabellum, often called 9mm Luger, 9mm NATO. Both are also simple, direct blowback. On the AR types, there is no gas tube under the handguard, and in your AK types, there is no gas port or actual gas piston. Anything that protrudes into the gas tube that once was is just a counterweight for the bolt group. And because of that being essentially direct blowback, you know, you'd think 9mm is a weaker round compared to 5.56 or 7.62 39. And in some ways, yes, but those are gas-operated lock breech guns, which dampens recoil. When you go to a direct blowback type, you do put more wear and tear on parts. And interestingly, both of these guns early on had issues. With the Kalashnikov-USA KR9 and KP9, early versions had cracking in the rear of the dust cover. But that wasn't a flaw of the US-made Cologne copy, because the Russian ones had that too early on. That's just because of the recoil system. Colts, early on with their 9mm, had some issues too, and to some extent still do. They had an issue with the buffer system and breaking the catch. They also had issue with the trigger pins That's why they ended up going to stainless steel. So both had to overcome some issues. It wasn't simply a matter of rechambering. And both were built as specialized weapons. The Colt AR with the 10.5-inch barrel was used by the Marines and others. Also, the same is famously known, the 7-inch version was used by the Department of Energy. As for the Vitiaz SN, standard barrel length is 9.5 inches, and these are more widespread. In fact, it's really the first submachine gun that the Russian military has had since really the AKM was adopted. And they're used by the Army, Navy, Marines, Spetsnaz, police, so on and so forth. Still in quite limited numbers, but more than the Colt. Going back in time, the original Colt submachine gun at 9mm work was begun around 1982-83 with the earliest kind of prototypes, pre-production models in 85, with Henry Tatreau as the principal lead designer. The Vitiaz is a little bit newer, had to wait till after the fall of the Soviet Union, and it actually started off, like I said, as part of the PP-19, the Bizon, in 93. Nominally, on paper, the team was led by Mikhail Kalashnikov, but by this point, I mean, the man's not young. But interestingly, one of the other lead designers was Alexei Dragunov. I'll let you guess whose son he was. And the earliest prototypes were around 1995 and testing in 96. So about a decade difference. And these would start to go into, at least the military versions, widespread service in the 21st century. And like I said, the Colts would be a little more, reserved. Now, of course, Colt has updated this design. This one still has the 2-position tube, the KR15 stock. The iron sights. Newer versions have the M4 stock, 4-position tube, and Picatinny flat top. As far as this, the Vitiaz, several versions exist. This one has the hinged top cover with the pick rail. Some have a side scope rail, more traditional. And there is a Sega 9 semi-automatic version offered in Russia. Both of these being semi-automatic only, civilian legal, have 16-inch barrels. And actually both are threaded 1/2x28. The Sega 9 has about a 13 to 14-inch barrel, although a shorter version also exists. So yeah, you can judge for yourself which one looks goofier. And of course they do use some of the same components, namely furniture, from their machine gun counterparts. And yeah, so that's some of the ways they're alike. How are they different? And how does that lead to better, worse, or maybe just neutral? Weight-wise, both are roughly the same in the 6-ish pounds range. Again, accessories matter. But be it the submachine gun or the PCC, being handy and compact is important. The Colt, of course, has the 16-inch barrels we have to have, and it has the 2-position KR15 stock, so in or out. Meaning you're only saving a few inches. Sorry, my sling got in the way there. And as many people are fond of pointing out, that they feel like this is one of the detractions of the AR15, the buffer tube and all that, not being able to have a true folding stock. So one of the first advantages to the KR9, Vitiaz, Sega 9, we can have a true folding stock. And this is actually a very good stock too. Simple, tight lockup. Plenty long for your needs, but if you wanted to put an M4 stock, you could, no problem. Standard modern 5.5 inch, or excuse me, 5.5 inch. I keep saying that. I do apologize. You know what I mean? 5.5 millimeter pin. Sorry, they've been hammering all day. They're putting a new roof on placed next door, and I think the hammering has got into my brain. I do like the kind of oversized yet still simple non-figure groove pistol grip that comes on this, and the original Kalashnikov concerns have a very similar grip, just a little bit rougher texture. This, of course, has the A2 grip, and that's pretty well standard, but you can put any AR grip on there. So compactness, at least potential, definitely goes to the AK. Just one of the best folding stocks ever made. KR9.
Sounds almost silent compared to the 12 gauges we were shooting.
Sounds like a stapler, like an electric stapler.
Yeah.
Colt 9mm. On the other hand, one area that AR15 guys are quick to call the AK out on: ergonomics and controls. AR controls we know, and they're shared for the 9mm, mag catch, AR controls, safety, and of course AKs are AK controls, and this is no different. We have a reciprocating charging handle on the right side only. We do have what is effectively an ambidextrous mag release, and we have an AK safety, although I will say this does have an extended shelf on it, so that's nice. But I think most would agree the AR safety is more intuitive. Charging system, most people prefer the AR. It is non-reciprocating, although the being able to pull it back towards your nose, I do find the AK system kind of nice. Plus this can double as a forward assist if you need to. But most, I think, would say the AR has it in the ergonomics, including triggers. Again, you can accessorize however you like. And there is one big feature that the AK doesn't have, and that also means we can switch over and talk about one of the most important parts of a gun: the magazine. The KR9 KP9 uses a US-made version of the Vityaz mag. Quite a modern mag. The Colt, even today with the newest 6951s, uses their own magazine, which is essentially a modified Uzi pattern, a notch here, and doesn't have the stops on the bottom, but double stack, double feed in a straight pattern. These come in sizes anywhere from 20 to 25 to 30 to 32, and the Vityaz seem to be 30. There may be others. So very much more of a classic mag. Now neither mag is all that common. Both are essentially proprietary. And yes, a lot of 9mm ARs take Glock mags or other mags. I get that. This is mine. I'm just talking about my own personal experiences because, hey, we're all friends here hanging out, right? So looking at the mags, I'm going to have to say the Vityaz, the KR9 style is better. It's a modern polymer construction, so it's lighter and cheaper and frankly more durable. It does have metal reinforcements where it needs them. It even has cuts on the top for use with stripper clips. And it's curved like an MP5 mag for better feeding. The Colt mag, on the other hand, is metal and straight. Some find these difficult to load, and so there is a tool commonly available. Like I said, these use stripper clips. These have a different solution. Yeah, this mag loader is pretty neat. A little more complicated than a clip, and I have found for me, I can usually load these up unless I want to go all the way to the top, which I rarely do by hand. But loading tool is nice, a little more fancy than the stripper clip. And These are more or less a straight insert. There's a little bit of rocking motion you need for them, but nothing too bad. Set you down. Goes right in. Of course, for the Colt style, they are straight insert. Now, there have been several ways to modify the longer magwell for the 223 to work for the shorter 9mm mag. Some lowers, it's just a smaller magwell, and that's actually the approach they took with the KR9, just having a shorter receiver up front. This is a dedicated 9mm receiver. This is a modified standard AR15. I think this is a more elegant solution. In fact, one thing I really like about the KR9 over, say, the Romanian imports and others is that they aren't trying to use a standard receiver. So both mags are essentially straight insert, and this is pretty well drop free, especially when it's still loaded, but it does lack one feature. Colt 9mm.
It's interesting shooting this right after the 223.
That's
And it held up.
KR9. With an empty mag as we have here, no hold open, not even a manual one cut into the selector. And of course, this has a standard AR hold open, standard type port door, just cut for the 9mm. And then of course we have a standard manual release if we need to. Many would say that is a big improvement, and they're not wrong. So that is definitely a feature that some might want. This also has this here that's thought of as a case deflector, and it will serve that purpose, but it's really meant to be a gas deflector. So especially if you're running suppressed, it's meant to keep stuff from blowing back at you. Of course, on the AK type, we do not have that. Sights, well, you know better than I do about sights. These are pretty standard AK notch rear post, again derived from the AK105, so relatively short sight radius. I think they expect you to use an optic. And of course, older Colts like these have what appear to be A1 rear sights, but they're actually opened up specifically for a 9mm, although they're still A1 pattern, and we have a standard carbine length sighting radius. So iron sights, I do feel very comfortable in saying this one is superior. And of course, if you get a newer 6951 with the flat top, you'll get a Magpul backup rear sight. So there you go. So those are just more features, but anyone who knows AKs, ARs, nothing to sneeze at. So I think the magazine itself is probably more reliable and more modern construction, but I do like the fact that this allows for a bolt hold open feature. That is good for military users, police users, and really civilian users too, especially if you go to a range a lot. It's nice to be able to help, show your weapon is safe very quickly and easily. WD9 first shots with the Glock mag. Held open. Really, it's hard to talk more about handling and ergonomics because, again, these are so adaptable. And that would definitely be something in the favor of most 9mm ARs, is because you can nearly use all standard AR parts on them. But I will say, unlike with 223, 5.56 ARs, there's not a standard for 9mm ARs. So when you get to things like the internals, the bolts, even sometimes the fire control groups, each brand may do its own thing. And of course, that goes with AKs as well, because these aren't really as standardized. as far as that goes, this would be a more standard gun in Russia just because of the adoption of the SMG, whereas this was a limited, more police security type gun. But you could set them up however you want. Personally, I like them this way. I like things simple. I love the classic XM177 KR15 look of this. It's a great shooter. Very smooth because of the inline system. The bolt's just going straight back on you. So whatever push is left just goes straight into your shoulder. It doesn't really have much climb or rise. With the AK types, because the mass is a little more off-center, it's more towards the top, and it's kind of bouncing above the stock a bit. These can try to jump around a bit more. Really, I'm thinking of guns like the Romanian PAC-9s, NAC-9s, the Novas. One reason that I kept one of these and actually sold my Romanians eventually, this has less of that, far less. It has a lot less what I call teeter-tottering or seesawing. And it's not just with these guns. I noticed that a lot of direct blowback PCCs, the HK-USC UMP comes to mind. It likes to do that. This is a lot less than others, and part of that has to do with it has a good spring and buffer in it. I would disassemble them, but YouTube doesn't seem to like that, and since you already know what these look like inside, I don't want to. But they both come apart identical to their counterparts, and they're very simple. You take them apart, and essentially everything is contained in your bolt. There's not a bolt and bolt carrier in either one. It's all one unit. As I said at the beginning, no gas system, and both of them have a simple recoil return assembly, either in the stock. Now, if you do a 9mm AR, you do need a heavy buffer or a special 9mm buffer. For an AK, this one's a little bit shorter for the shorter receiver. Yeah, I really like shooting both, and both have proven exceedingly reliable and fun. So with that, I'll ask you, what PCC 9mm AK AR do you like? There are so many already on the market, and probably so many coming to the market, I won't even pretend to know all of them. So I'd love to kind of talk about in the comments which ones you like. Talking subjective, in the past, before PCCs became popular, more so anyway, people kind of saw, what's the point? You're shooting 9mm or 45 or whatever out of a full-size gun, might as well use a rifle round. And for militaries, that might be true, especially if you're trying to defeat body armor. However, of course, there's always the concern of over-penetration. Also, common ammo with a sidearm, a pistol. And sometimes it's just the simplicity. These types of simple blowback guns are very easy to maintain, and they're affordable. At the same time, they use a lot of the same small parts as their big brothers. As far as civilians, the same thing could apply for a home defense gun. You're lowering the chances of over-penetration and all that. I know different ammo, different arguments, different things, and 223 fragmenting. I'm not going to get into all that now. I'm just saying, different thoughts. There's also hollow point 9mm that'll flatten out, so as you may. But more than that, I think it's just fun at the range, and that's what these are both for. A box of 59mm or a box of 20 223 or 7.62 by 39. You get more shots, simpler, straightforward, less recoil. Great for teaching youngsters on, or just anyone. A lot of people like shooting. They're just darn fun. And some ranges don't allow rifle caliber, but they do allow pistol caliber rounds. So depending on where you're at, that could be a factor. There's lots of factors. But I've always enjoyed them. I've mostly stuck with Colt 9mm ARs throughout my life and have not been disappointed. Sometimes they're built from kits, sometimes they're factory guns. For the AKs, it took me a while to kind of find one I liked, and it kind of came out of left field. I was pretty happy with the Romanian guns, but some of the ones before that were pretty fly-by-night and pretty chintzy. What I like about these, they do seem to be a military spec quality gun, as are the Colts. But a lot of your ARs and AKs and 9mm are built for commercial standards and practices. So keep that in mind. Issues we've seen problems with are firing pins or firing pin retainers, springs, and again, buffers. A lot of commercial 9mm don't have a strong enough buffer in the ARs. And some of the AKs, again, the Romanians, use that kind of, I don't know, resin block in the back. They actually do that with the Romanian guns to make up for the fact they're using a full-length receiver. The KP, KR9, and Sega 9, for that matter, gets around that. Doesn't need one because they just simply have a special shortened receiver. And really, Kalashnikov-USA did an amazing job of replicating this gun. It's almost as if they had blueprints and drawings, but of course we know the truth. They would never do that. They could not. So, yeah, little pick rail under the sight, too. But it seemed like a fun topic for a weekend. Who doesn't like talking PCCs? Neck 9. AR 9mm.
Click, no bang. It'd be amazing if I had another dead firing pin in this. Click, no bang.
Any
Okay.
dimples in the casings?
No. I bet I have another broken firing pin.
Good times.
Yep.
And we'll end with them collapsed as much as possible. You can really see how that folding stock lets you save length. It also saves weight because they went with the skeletonized metal. You might think metal weighs more than the polymer solid body version, but you would be wrong. The polymer version has metal reinforcements. This is stamped steel, same as the receiver, so very thin. No real mechanism. It just literally kind of hooks on the side. Simple but effective. Steel butt plate. If this were a rifle, you know, especially 308, maybe a little uncomfortable. 9mm, you absolutely don't notice it. This system, of course, weighs a little more. This has the Fiberlight KR15 stock. Some of the early 9mm still use the metal. And as I said, the newer ones use the M4. But this will stick out longer. Even with the machine guns, this has an inch longer barrel. So overall, it is a longer package. But with better ergonomics. But I'd love to know your experiences and your thoughts. The KP and KR9s have been on the market for a few years now. And we've had more and more 9mm ARs come out over the years. So which ones do you have and which ones do you like? I don't know. It just seemed like a fun comparison. Wish I could say more, but that's really kind of it. They're just for fun. But I perfectly understand why police and even some special military units, for example, makes total sense why the DOE would pick one of these, especially in the 1980s and 90s, versus what was on the market at the time for them. And it makes sense today why Russia, as they're going away from the AK-74 Ukrink, maybe wants a submachine gun again. Again, the Vityaz is the first real submachine gun they've had. I'm not counting PDWs, machine pistols like the Stechkin. Not that they're bad guns, but that's a different purpose. This is a full-size subgun, and it's in a standard caliber. 9x19, especially out of a longer barrel, does have a lot more oomph than 9x18 Makarov PM. So it's kind of interesting that they've gone to it. But with that, I better get back to work. Appreciate you tuning in, hanging out. As always, if you could, please do like, share, subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to our Patreon page. And also check back soon, as like I said, we're kind of in the middle of working on 4 or 5 new videos for all you fine folks. So here's to hoping May has better weather. And this is Misha, and J-Ro and I will catch you very soon next time. KR9, last mag of the day. And that makes 500.